happened on Valentine's Day. Me and my girlfriend are college students at a school in Kentucky. Parking was limited at our school, so it was hard for most students to keep up with having their cars on campus. This meant you typically had to walk everywhere unless you owned a bike. I was among the unlucky walkers this semester. The evening rolled around and we were thinking of romantic things we could do together, and we decided upon ordering food. Not the most glamorous, but it was my treat. Most of the restaurants were closed, but Taco Bell was open, so we ordered from there. After we ordered, we quickly realized that we had accidentally placed the order for pickup. There didn't seem to be an option to cancel it, so I decided I would walk the 1.5 miles to pick up the food. I wasn't keen on walking in the freezing conditions at that time of the night, but I was a broke college student who really wanted to give his girlfriend a nice evening. So with a hug and a kiss from my girlfriend, I set off on my journey to get the food. Walking through campus at night typically isn't a problem for me since I'm a 5'9" male, but when you make it through campus and into the residential areas of the town, that's when things do tend to get sketchy. I had made it through campus and was about a quarter of the way to Taco Bell when in the distance I saw another man walking down the street. Initially, 2 things put me on alert. The first one being that he was wearing one of those long trench coats you typically associate with sketchy men, and the other one being the conditions out. Logically, no one should be walking around in these conditions as they were literally cold enough to freeze the sweat in your hair. But I convinced myself otherwise, assuming he was either in a similar situation as me or he just really enjoyed the weather. As a precaution though, I did switch sides of the street as I'm a tad socially awkward and hate talking to random people I don't really know. As I continued walking, we passed one another and seemingly without a hitch. Neither of us acknowledged the other and we both kept walking. Being the wary person I was though, I glanced over my shoulder every so often in these kinds of situations. But thankfully, he was still walking the same direction he had been from the start. Good. Feeling reassured, I kept walking, still throwing the occasional glance over my shoulder for safety. About 2 minutes after we had passed each other, I cast another glance over my shoulder. This time, I noticed a man was now walking in my direction and doing so a bit faster than I was walking. That creeped me out and I started to walk a bit faster. Immediately though, I noticed the man matched my acceleration until we were side by side on opposite sides of the street. When he caught up to me, he started yelling at me and I saw something fall from the sleeve of his jacket, like he was trying to conceal it. Only, it fell through his hand, making a loud noise like a piece of metal bar or a large metal knife on the ground. At this moment, I realized the danger of the situation and my fight or flight instincts kicked in. Ready to defend myself, I pulled out my pocket knife as I noticed him start to make his way across the street. It was at this moment that I mustered as loud a voice as I could manage and said that I didn't want any trouble and I had a knife on me. Hearing that, the man stopped in his tracks and said he thought I was someone else who just attacked him. I wasn't buying that, but I played it off cool, acting like it was no big deal. The stranger muttered a quick apology and retreated back to his side of the street, continuing in the other direction. At this point, I thought I was safe. I continued on my trek to Taco Bell, and after this experience, I was all the more wary because of the potential of having 2 creepy men out on the streets. As I was walking, I looked over my shoulder and I noticed the man from before on the same path that I was. At that point, I just sprinted as fast as I could to Taco Bell. Somewhere along the way, the man mysteriously vanished. Not wanting to alarm my girlfriend, I didn't text her. I just waited and I got my food and started walking back. Thankfully, I made it back to campus without any more events, but you better believe I had a hand on my pocket knife at all times. To this day, I have no clue what this man's intentions were, but I never heard anything about the assault that the stranger had described, so I'm pretty sure they weren't anything good. I was 13 and in middle school. I was living in a 3-family apartment building and had just moved there a couple months before everything happened. There was my brother, my mom, and myself on the top floor, a man, his wife, and their son on the second floor, and then there was Gary on the first floor. The family on the second floor were very nice people and great neighbors. This story is about Gary. Gary was probably in his mid-30s, but mentally, he was stuck in his teenage years. At first, he was a welcoming neighbor, but then, it all went downhill from there. The day it all happened was Valentine's Day. I was just coming up the steps to my door when I saw a bouquet of flowers with a card in a brown paper bag. I grabbed them before I unlocked the door and headed inside. I set them on the table and went about my normal after-school routine. Then I went to open the card. The card said, "Happy Valentine's Day, I'm madly in love with you. Love, Gary." There was also a giant Hershey's chocolate bar in the brown bag. Keep in mind, I was just a small 13-year-old girl. I immediately flipped out and called my mom at work right away and told her what had happened. She told me not to eat the candy bar and she said she was on her way. She came right home and we called the landlord and the police. They both arrived at around the same time and we told them what had happened. Then they went downstairs and talked to Gary. A few minutes later, they returned, saying nothing could be done because he has some mental issues. Don't get me wrong, I had sympathy for him, but I was honestly so scared to even be in my own home. Unfortunately, the creepiness only escalated from there. The next week, he started to stand outside and play his guitar and sing love songs up to our windows. He mostly did this at night. When summertime rolled around, it started to warm up and Gary decided he would lay on a blanket in the front yard with his blow-up doll. The same blow-up doll that he had intentionally went out and bought an outfit for, similar to one that I had worn on some occasions. He would lay out there and pretty much molest this doll right in front of me and look up at my windows as he did these things. We called the landlord and the police again, and once again, they did nothing about the situation. That left me feeling completely helpless. I remember my dad wanted to do something about it, but my mom reminded him that Gary had mental health issues. And yet still, every day, this creep would try to invite me into his apartment every time I came home from school. Luckily, I had a friend that lived on my street that would keep me safe and help walk me to my apartment door. Still, every interaction with Gary left me more and more disturbed. Fortunately, we moved a couple months later. I doubt anything ever happened to Gary. The police in the area seemed completely unwilling to fix the situation and prevent a more serious problem from occurring. But more than anything, I was just glad to get the hell out of there. Nothing good was going to come from my interactions with Gary. That much was clear. This story happened to a friend of mine and took place over the course of a decade. I'll be telling it from her point of view. When I was 8 years old, right around Valentine's Day, I received a small envelope in the mail. It had no return address, but it was sent from another state that I didn't know anyone from. When I opened it, it was simply a folded sheet of computer paper with a picture of a Charlie Brown character holding a heart in his blanket. It appeared to be drawn and colored by hand. On the inside was a short Valentine's Day message with a small personal detail about my life that only someone close to me would know. So naturally, I thought it was probably my grandparents or my parents trying to do something nice for me. Every year after, I received one of these cards around Valentine's Day. Every year it had a picture of the same character, accompanied by a detail of my life. Every single year, the card was typed in the same font and was from a different state. For example, the Valentine's Day after I adopted my dog Bailey, the card said, "Would Bailey be jealous if you were my Valentine?" I kept most of these letters over the years. When I got older, I finally mentioned it to my grandparents, fully expecting it to be them, but they swore that they weren't sending them. I honestly believe it because I had expressed my concerns by this point and they aren't the type to want to scare me. Neither are my parents. The only other family I have in the country are my dad's parents, who don't speak English well and have never owned a computer. Aside from them, who find it strange as well, I have no other family. I still get the cards every year, always the same, except for one Valentine's Day a few years ago. I received a stuffed teddy bear and a big chocolate heart along with the card. Needless to say, I did not eat the chocolate, and I searched that bear, convinced that there could be a hidden camera inside. After that year, I started receiving only the cards again. At first, I couldn't find any real significance regarding the bear itself, but upon further inspection, the tags on the back of it offered a lot more information. Apparently, it was handmade in Vermont. It even had a phone number and the website of the company that made it. It also included the year and the month the bear was made, December 2010, which led me to believe that I probably received it 2 months later, February 2011, when I was 14 years old. I've actually been to Vermont several times to visit my great-grandmother in a nursing home, but she died a few years ago, definitely before I was 14. She was 101 when she died, and not very coherent in the years before that. So although it was possible it was her, we were never too close, so I doubt it. After doing some more research on the company that made the bear, it seems that their main thing is beargrams. Basically, the sender picks a teddy bear and gives whatever address they want it sent to. Then the company puts that, a chocolate, and a note in a fun box and sends it off. When I saw a picture of the box on their website, I remembered the box the bear came in. It was definitely the same one. In any case, as a child, it was sort of exciting and mysterious, like a secret admirer of sorts. But today, with seemingly no answers to any of my questions, it's just unnerving. I've racked my brain for years trying to figure out who it could possibly be, and every time I come up empty-handed. It still makes me uneasy, but if this person really wanted to hurt me, I think they would have done it by now. I've never really felt outwardly threatened by them, so I don't think there's much I can do about it. The main thing I want to know is why. What is the point of all this, and who's responsible? As disconcerting as it all is, I've started realizing I may never find out. I know it's a long shot, but if anyone has any idea what this is, please don't hesitate to reach out. I could use all the help I can get.